Hi, podcast listeners. Welcome to the A World of Difference podcast. We have so many guests on this show making a difference in our lives, making a difference all around the world with the expertise that they bring. And yet so many of you are reaching out to me saying, you want more. It's not enough just what we're putting on these podcast episodes for you. And so I am here to extend a very warm welcome to you to our Difference Maker community, where you can join for as little as $5 a month to get all this extra content. Out the gate, you're going to get 30 plus mini-sodes of exclusive content not available for the regular podcast listeners, and an exclusive mini-sode every month. And you'll get exclusive voting power to help us pick podcast topics and more. And that's at our Changers tier. There's 3 different main tiers and then an extra larger tier. But whatever tier that you join at, you will be included in this extra content. And I know that many of you are wanting to go a little bit deeper. And so even though it gets a little wild in there sometimes because of how deep we go, I want you to join us there. This extra content is very special. It means a great deal to me to be a part of this community with you. And I would love to just exchange ideas or perspectives that you have around these different episodes. And that's the place where we do it. So please show up to our Difference Maker community. Give us $5 out of your pocket every month. And I think that you'll have a lot of fun in there because we do. And I would love for you to join us. So go to patreon.com/A World of Difference to join us there. Welcome to the A World of Difference podcast. I'm Lori Adams Brown, and this is a podcast for those who are different and want to make a difference. We have a very special father-son duo on the podcast today. It's Mark and John Cronin, who have together started a business called John's Crazy Socks. And they are selling socks like crazy, but they are actually also spreading happiness in the process, because these two also have a podcast, and their podcast is all about spreading happiness. It's called the Spreading Happiness Podcast, weekly 30-minute podcast designed to bring a smile to your face and make you feel good. But also they have a TED Talk that's called Hiring People with Differing Abilities is Not Altruism, It's Good Business. John has Down syndrome and apparently is an incredible entrepreneur and has just a huge desire to spread happiness around the world. And their sock business is just really taking off. So I'm super excited to talk about wellness in the workplace as entrepreneurs and for people of differing abilities, just to find out what we can learn from them, how to have wellness as a father and son. We're going to talk about all those facets of wellness today from this incredible and inspiring father-son duo who love life and love to tell jokes and are basically world famous. And we get to have them here on the podcast today. So welcome, John and Mark Cronin. Hello, Mark and John. Welcome today to the A World of Difference podcast.
We are excited to be here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us on.
Oh, I am thrilled to get to talk to you both today about John's Crazy Socks and get to know each of you, John and Mark, and your beautiful story together. And I know a lot of people are excited to hear your story today. So I just first want to start with the very obvious question that everybody wants to know is more about who you are. And so maybe if you could give us, each of you, a little introduction. Maybe we'll start with John. John, if you'll tell us who you are, and then we'll go to Mark.
Sure. I gotta tell you all about me. I have Down syndrome. Down syndrome, and never. I have Down syndrome. Down syndrome, and never me back. And Dad, can you tell me all about me?
You want me to talk about you?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. You're an entrepreneur.
Yes, I am.
You're a sock tycoon.
Yes, I am.
You're a public speaker.
Yes.
You're a philanthropist.
Yes.
You're a dancer.
Yes, I am.
You're an athlete.
Yes, I am.
A good friend.
Yes, I am.
You're a boyfriend, right?
Very smooth.
Very smooth. Huh? You're all of these things, and you happen to have Down syndrome.
Right.
Okay.
And also, this my partner, my dad, Mark S. Cronin. He is a great father, a great husband, and he is a dadpreneur. He is he has a husband. He
You got that already right. Yeah.
his husband he's smooth.
I'm smooth. What else? What else would you want to tell people? What I want to share? I'm an entrepreneur.
Yes, you are.
I'm an advocate like you.
Yeah, he
Public
very
speaking.
he very active.
I'm a Bob Dylan fan.
Bob Dylan.
I'm a Jet fan and a Met
And
fan.
Sam Smith fan.
You are too?
Yes.
That means we know how to suffer.
Yes, we are.
And you're both hilarious, I just must say. And it's wonderful to see a duo like you, not only doing an incredible business, but making a difference in the world. So we're so excited you're here today on the A World of Difference podcast, because we are all about celebrating our differences and making a difference together. So I would love for either one of you to, or both, to tell us a little bit about what led you to start spreading happiness through socks.
Well,
Sure. I just thought a DNA. I'll go back to 2016.
fall of
Fall of
2016. Our business was born in part out of necessity.
Yes.
So where were you then, pal?
I was at Huntington High School. It's going to be my last year of school.
And John, like everybody else, was trying to figure out, what do I do when I'm done with school?
Right. I've been looking at job, program, and school. I don't like the option I don't like.
He didn't
I
see-
am a entrepreneur.
Really well, he didn't see any options
I didn't
that he
look.
liked. And,
Yeah.
Lori, this is unfortunately too common for people with different abilities. There just aren't enough options out there. But
Yeah.
John, he's a natural entrepreneur.
Yes, I am.
If you didn't see a
Yep.
job you wanted, what were you going to do?
I want to create one. I want to make one. And I said to my dad, and I want to go business with you. I want to have nice father and son and business together.
Which was pretty cool, right?
That is very cool.
I'm a lucky man.
Yes,
I've
you
got
are.
3 sons. You're the youngest,
Yes, I am.
and this is one I could work with.
Thank you, Dad.
So, but being a true entrepreneur, John had a lot of ideas.
Yes, I do.
Not all of them are good ideas.
I'm not starting this idea.
What was one of your ideas for a business?
One of them is a food truck. I got an idea from the movie Chef, John Favreau. The movie about a father and son bonding on food truck. We look around.
That seemed like a fun idea.
I find idea.
That movie
Yeah.
probably launched 1,000 new food trucks.
Yes.
And we're thinking, what could we make? Where would we put it? But we ran into a problem.
Oh, we can cook.
Yeah, we can't cook.
That's a huge problem.
But then, right before Thanksgiving here in the U.S., late November,
I have plenty of idea.
you had a brilliant idea.
Yeah, cover my head.
What'd you say?
I want to sell a crazy socks. Why socks? It's fun. It's colorful. It's creative. It's always let me be me. I want to crazy socks my whole life.
He'd worn
I
his
was
crazy socks
look
his
for
whole
it.
life. We used to drive around looking for them.
Yes.
So we figured this. If John loved them that much, surely other people would
Yep.
too. And we could find
Yeah.
our tribe. So that's where the idea came from. We went, and you're out in Silicon Valley. Some folks out there will know this approach. We went the lean startup route. Let's go and just get something up and running and see how people respond. But right from the beginning, we knew we wanted to use this as a vehicle to spread happiness, to give back, to show what people with different abilities can do. So we opened back in December of 2016,
Yeah, we're
just the
starting.
2 of us.
Yes, we are.
Bootstrapping our way. We built a website.
Yep.
We had a little inventory. The only marketing we did, right? We didn't have outside funding, You make use what you have. I would take out my cell phone.
And I do videos.
We made videos that we'd share on social media.
I
Who was in those videos?
I am. I'm talking about socks. Socks. More socks.
And,
I can see it already. You're such a salesman.
Yes. Thank
and
you.
we got first day we got a flood of local orders. Most of them
Yes.
were local. What do we do with those orders?
We do a home delivery. We get red boxes like this one. And I
Yep.
put sock in the box. And I look. I what I put in the box.
We're looking and saying this needs something else.
Right.
So what else did you put in?
I put a digging note I wrote. I put a bag. Heard the kids
We got candy. We
and
got
candy.
Hershey's. Loaded up the car, and we drive around. And you knocked on doors delivering something.
I did, and customer response. They love the socks, and they could take a picture, and share on social media. A word I get, I spread.
We had customers ordering again just to get John to come back to the
Yes.
door. So we tested the idea, and it tested well.
Right.
By the end of the month, we had shipped 452 orders, had $13,000 in revenue, and said, we have something here. And we learned,
Yeah.
right? One,
People want to buy a sock. 2, people want to buy socks from me. And relate to
they
me.
related to John. They liked the fact we'd already pledged 5% of our earnings to the Special Olympics. They liked that personal touch. And you learn by doing. So we learned that this young man,
This is an old man.
this old man, we could sell socks.
Okay, old.
So, yes, thank you.
The papa.
So that's how we started. We've come a long way in the 5+ years. How many different socks do we have now?
We have 4,000 different kinds of socks. And any
4,000,
sources.
which means John here owns the world's largest sock store.
That's right.
We've
Wow.
now shipped 380,000 packages to 88 different countries. But if we get an order between our office and home,
I'm still doing home deliveries.
still knocking on doors doing home
Aw.
deliveries. So that's how we got started. And right from the beginning and to this day, we have that mission to spread happiness.
Yes.
But a key component is we want to show what's possible, what people with different abilities can do. So more than half of our colleagues have a differing ability. We've been able to create 34 jobs. 22 of those are held by people with a different ability. We want to share that, so we make content all the time to share in our social media channels, right?
Yeah.
You love doing TikTok videos.
I do. I love TikToks.
We host tours from schools and
Yep.
social service agencies. Do a lot of speaking engagements. We've made 2 TEDx Talks.
Yep.
All to show, look what people can do.
I also, advocacy. I went down to testifying twice and before our Congress.
We testified twice before the U.S. Congress.
Yes.
Spoken at the United Nations.
Yep.
We've been very fortunate.
Very fast.
Yes. Well, you are such an accomplished duo, and I'm just super impressed as a parent who, understands the dynamics of going in to start any business with one of your children. It has its own challenges and advantages. But honestly, I'm in awe of all that you've both done together in this beautiful business that's so purpose driven. And I would love just to hear a little bit more about your own differing ability, if you would be willing to share with us. What is it like to walk in the world with Down syndrome?
Well, you have Down syndrome.
I do.
That's all you've ever known, right?
Right.
You don't know what it's like not to have Down syndrome.
I don't know like what a Down syndrome is. And Down syndrome is more important to me, and I talk about other people. I have their own disability, and I change the world.
We can share some of the journey. First,
Yeah.
you get Down syndrome, and maybe your audience doesn't know this, it's the largest chromosomal different condition. We all have 23 pairs of chromosomes. You get Down syndrome by having an extra 21st chromosome.
I'm an extra love.
You get a little extra love, right?
LOV love.
And, some of the reality is that most people born with Down syndrome face some significant medical issues. John, on his third day of life, needed intestinal bypass surgery.
Yeah.
We did not know if he would survive that operation. We brought a Catholic priest in to baptize him in the hospital. Before he was 3 months old, he had open heart surgery to repair 2 holes in his heart. He was in full congestive heart failure. Again, we didn't know if he could survive the operation, but he couldn't live without it. This may seem remarkable now, but when John was young, he couldn't talk.
Yeah, I started talking, and I do sign language, and I do I using tablet or computer, and I using a button. I can communicate.
But he kept working.
Yeah.
Now he can talk.
Yeah.
Now you do public speaking.
I do.
And now there are times we can't get you to stop talking.
Yeah, I never shut up.
Oh my goodness.
But here's the thing. It is true, there are things John cannot do, or that he's very limited in. But the same can be said about you and about me.
Yeah.
Right? There's a educational theorist at Harvard, Howard Gardner, who has a theory of multiple intelligences. And we measure 2 of them in school, an analytical and a verbal ability. But we all have a physical intelligence, a social intelligence, a management intelligence. Well, when he does his profiles, he uses bar charts. I figured for John's got like 400 distinct intelligences.
Right.
And some of them you're like a 2-year-old. And some of them he's off the charts.
Yeah.
So let's play to those strengths.
Yeah.
Who cares about what we can't do? If I use the example, if I were to start a basketball team, I probably want LeBron James on my basketball team. I don't care what his SAT scores were.
Right.
I don't care what he does in the kitchen or if he knows geometry. I want to know, can he play hoops? Well, if we all focus on what people can do and focus at their strengths, we'll all be better off. I'll repeat, don't be blinded by a person's limitations. Be awed by their possibilities. And we get to live that out every day.
Absolutely. Don't share the example when we work on the village and so you got a call.
Well, yeah, there are folks, and parents included, right? It's easy to be overly protective of people or assume they can't do. And that shows up in a lot of different ways. Once John, previously, before we had this business, had an office in our village, and John would come there after school and he'd go run errands for us. And one day, I got a phone call from the head of special education in the school district saying, Mark, you're not going to believe this. I just got a call from a parent saying they saw John in town and they called me because we should intervene with the parents and do something about this. Now, we were on the same page. He said, you don't understand. That's what we're trying to do. We want people to be independent.
Yeah. I really want that.
It's when we look at somebody and assume they can't do things. Here's another way it shows up sometimes. We just wrote an essay about this. You'll get some people saying, oh, everybody with Down syndrome is happy. They're always happy. Well, that infantile, makes them all out to be infants. as
Right.
if they're not real people. John
Right.
Right.
makes choices and he tends to be happy. But let me tell you
Mhm.
something.
Yeah.
I see him in the morning.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's like
Yeah.
poking
He's
a
grumpy,
bear in
right?
hibernation. You don't want to do that. John, can be sad. I witnessed from the outside the soap opera that is his relationship with his girlfriend. The ups and
Oh
downs, and
yeah.
you can
Yeah.
feel heartache. This weekend we had services for my brother-in-law who passed away recently. John will feel sadness. Please don't
Yeah.
tell me he's always happy
Right.
because that's not what people are. Now, the fact that John has a worldview and takes an approach that generates happiness, that's not because he has Down syndrome. That's because he's John. Does
Hmm.
that make sense?
Totally. Yes. That's so enlightening. And thank you so much because I think that with any differing ability, and as you said, all of us really have differing abilities. Some have labels and some don't. But the reality is we're all different. And it's always important for us to know what the stereotypes are around differences because we don't want to fall into the
Yeah.
trap of thinking those things about anyone else, much less ourselves. So thank you for that information because it helps us to be more sensitive. Because one of the things we're talking about in this series of wellness is how wellness is something we contribute to together. So, part of wellness, whether it's occupational wellness or physical or mental wellness, is just having those conversations, just being very open about how we operate, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are. And I'm a firm believer, exactly like what you said, Mark, that we should really cater to our strengths, no matter who we are. So I'm big on the Strengths Finder. I raise my children to, I'm sorry, whatever class that you get like season, we're not going to focus a lot on, we're going to focus on your A's and we're going to make those better. We're going to give you opportunities to get the A plus plus plus. And if you have a C or B, that's okay. We're not going to focus all our time on your C's and B's. But I think all of us, whether we're starting a business like you are or walking through life, that is part of one of the keys to happiness is to be able to live in our strengths. So I just think I'm so thrilled to see this father son duo. Just the message alone of showing that you care about your strengths for your own child is just, it's so important. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that journey as well.
Well, you, you have to let people be whom they are. To a little bit, I think our role as parents, I'm very careful about talking about parenting, because parenting is very humbling. There's so much we
Yeah.
want to do for our children, and there's so little we actually can do. And it turns out we don't get to control them. They are their own people.
Yep.
Same way we are. Right? So, part of what we've always tried to do as parents is to promote independence, encourage and give people confidence. Some of that means letting them understand their opportunities, it exposing them to different things. And when they want to achieve something, make sure they understand what that takes. But
Yeah.
here's something which we're very aware of. If you meet John, you'll you'll pretty quickly say, "Oh, that's a person with Down syndrome."
Right.
And if you looked at our family, you might say the presenting condition was Down syndrome. You might say it's my being overweight, but in fact, the presenting condition in our family, as it were, is depression. My
Mm.
wife and our middle son, his older brother, both suffer from chronic depression, and
Mm.
Jamie, our son in particular, affected by anxiety. And let me tell you something. Down syndrome, that's easy. Depression, that's hard.
Mm.
And if you look at people from the outside, you don't know.
You don't know.
And I find that to be humbling.
Mm.
I find that to be instructive about taking people where they are and giving people the benefit of the doubt. because we don't know. It's a cliche to say, but we don't know what struggles other people have.
That's so true. And it's just an excellent point in this whole conversation around our differences. Some differences are easy to hide, and others are not so easy to hide. And in some ways, it can be a gift when your differences are very obvious, but at the same time, you might face a lot of stereotypes. However, the hidden differences, like depression, and in a conversation around wellness, this is a significant one. It can feel that you have the ability to hide it until you feel so overwhelmed that you don't have that community that you should have built around you. So, yeah, how has that journey been for your family with depression?
It's been hard. Hard even to recognize it. We dealt with it before we had the language to deal with it. It's something we've benefited here in the community we have here because we all got something. And so
Yep.
we're in a community where we all kind of know we're the aisle of what was it in Rudolph and that cartoon? We're the aisle of broken toys. We take everybody,
Right.
And you get to be who you are,
Yeah.
and that's very supportive. I make a point of talking about the depression because so many people are dealing with it, either themselves or in their families. And it becomes liberating because we all tend to hide that,
Yeah.
And this can have dramatic impacts. Here's an example we had of Jamie, his best friend. There were three of these kids growing up together. His best friend returned from college after his freshman year. He was on the national championship lacrosse team. Everything was wonderful. Comes from a wonderful family. And he died in the streets of an overdose.
Oh, no.
And the day he died, maybe it was a day after, I saw a friend of mine who was a columnist for the Newsday, the large Long Island newspaper. And I mentioned this, and she looked at me and she said, "Mark, that's the 5th death so far this year in Huntington Bay, in the part of town we lived in." And it's the
Wow.
type of thing of, this is the part of town where everybody has a nice life, everything's great, right? It's not the poor part where we blame everything on.
Yep.
And I said, well, how does not everybody know that? She said, because nobody will talk about it.
Wow.
And it's very difficult. I make a point of talking about it. It's hard because my son doesn't necessarily like me talking about it, and it's his life. But we're all struggling with that.
Yep.
That son I love as dearly as I love John.
Right. And I will also, my grandmother and
Well, your grandmother has dementia.
I
But let's say we'll stay on this, topic of mental health wellness. It's being accepting. I've learned, and I'm still learning this lesson. I'm one of those folks. If I see something, I want to fix it. I want to do something about it. Right. My son, one point in talking to me, said, "Dad, your problem is you are just too rational. And this is not rational." So, I think part of supporting wellness in each other, at least our experience, we're not experts. It's just being present, listening, and paying attention to people. People who need help don't all walk around with a sign saying, "I need help and this is what I need you to do." You got to really be present and be there. And sometimes it means holding someone. Sometimes it just means listening or giving them space or understanding. And sometimes it may mean kicking them in the butt.
That's true.
But how when nah.
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful, thank you for being so vulnerable about your own journey with your friends and your community and your own family. I have a friend that lives actually in New York City, close to you. Her name's Sarah Wall. Shout out, she's listening. She listens sometimes. But her son is has a similar diagnosis to what my son has, and I received that when he was little. And I remember her saying this thing that forever, for years, our family has said, which is we're all working on something. And so you may have a label for your something, or you may not. But the reality is we're all working on stuff. And that's what it means to be family and be community, is to help each other, to be a good listener, to be understanding. And like you said, sometimes we all need a kick in the butt at different points. And so that's what it means to just be together and help support one another in wellness. But I'm imagining your socks have probably arrived in people's doors with these crazy socks and this red box and sometimes Hershey Kisses on top. And it has brought happiness to people who were otherwise really struggling. So I would love
We
to hear any stories about people who've received your socks and how it's affected them.
we hear that a lot from people, and it's somewhat daunting. I remember when we were first starting off, um, even in the first couple weeks, there was a woman who reordered and wanted us to come back to her house, and we deliver. And she stopped us. John went and delivered and said, your dad's in the car. I want to talk to both of you." She said, "The first time you came, my husband had undergone an operation, and I was distraught. I had spent all day in the hospital, and I came home and I found your package." And she said, "And that lifted my spirits and helped me get through that night. And so I
Mm.
just wanted you to come back so I could say thank you." Or we had another woman where John went up to deliver a package to her, and I remember she was up on a hill, and there was this long flight of stairs, and she comes walking down. She says, "I just want to let you know, my mother passed away over the summer, and I've been very down. I wasn't even going to celebrate the Christmas holiday, but I've been watching videos of John, and it just brought me so much joy that I called up my sister and said, let's celebrate this holiday."
That's wonderful.
We
Yeah.
we get letters from people telling us how much John and the socks meant to them, and it's for us sometimes we're not sure how to respond, because we're just a couple of knuckleheads selling socks,
Right.
right? Um, but it is part of what we're trying to do. We have a social enterprise. It's a slightly different type of business model, both the social and the business purpose. And what's our mission?
Spreading happiness.
Everything we do is designed to spread happiness. We want to connect with people. We want to show what's possible. So at the end of the day, yes, John may own the world's largest sock store, but we're not really a sock store. The socks just become the physical manifestation for the story and that mission to spread happiness.
It's so lovely. And I think, I spent so much of my career working in more directly related social impact type of work, but recently have started to work in business, in a very purpose driven business. And I'm a firm believer in exactly what you said, that business can be used for good, in some ways more impactful than some of the nonprofit work that's out there, depending on how you do it. And so I think what you're doing is so wonderful, and it's so mission and purpose driven, and you are spreading happiness. And I know that everybody listening around the world in this interview is super curious to where you want to go next. So, what do you hope to achieve with your business? Do you have any goals or dreams? What's the
Yes,
next thing?
we, as you say, we're just getting started, right?
Yes, we are.
We we have a relatively simple strategy. Drive the mission, that will drive the brand, that will drive revenues and the business. At its core, the basic business components have to be great. We have to have a great website. We got to have great selection, so we have the greatest selection in the world. You got to have great products, So 29,000 five-star reviews. We got to have great service. We do same-day shipping. So you got to have that in place.
Yeah.
But we're always trying to drive more and reach more. So, here's this year we're growing our B2B business. We're going to be start selling wholesale. So we'll be in the wholesale channel. We'll be in retail stores by the end of the year. But we have a key initiative this year called JCS Champions. And the idea is that we want to put people with a differing ability into their own business by giving them a business in a box. So we're setting this program up for enrollees. We will train you. We will show you, how to run a business, a micro business.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to give you a selling stand. We're going to give you inventory, our socks, so you can go to a farmer's market or a craft fair or maybe a store in town and set up your wares. You'll have your own business. You'll have something you can be proud of. Now, if you want to, you can keep it as a micro business, and that will let you maintain your benefits. But if you want to grow that as an independent business, sell other things, you can do that. So we're going to enroll the first 5 people in JCS Champions in October. But over 5 years, we want to create 1,000 businesses across the U.S. showing, look what people with different abilities can do.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful news.
And we're always looking for new ways in which we can fulfill our mission. So, during the pandemic, when people are shut down and isolated, how do you spread happiness? Well, what do you do every Tuesday afternoon?
I hold a dance party every Tuesday, 3 p.m. 3 p.m. At the time.
An online dance party.
I
You
love
go to
it.
our website, and at the bottom you can sign up and join John, and it might be 100 people dancing on Zoom.
Yeah, I start at 12 o'clock your time.
We
Yeah.
we started doing a Facebook Live show called, what's it called?
I I
The,
spreading
the
happiness.
Spreading Happiness show on Thursdays at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, and that has now led to, we do our own podcast, the Spreading Happiness podcast. 30 minutes a week of banter between the two of us,
Yes.
some good news stories, we tell some jokes,
Yeah.
we give an update on John's love life.
Very smooth. How about
Um,
you?
Right, but it's all just designed. Let's put a smile on your face. Let's make you feel good. So there are a lot of ways for us that we can carry out this mission.
That's incredible. And I'm super impressed not only that you're bringing people in and accomplishing your mission in so many ways, dance parties, which that was a quick conversion to my Pacific Coast time. Thank you for that. 12 p.m. for those in the California area that want to join in on the dance party, and 3 p.m. if you're on the East Coast. But I also just think that you're getting to accomplish your mission through so many wonderful ways. And I love how even during the COVID pandemic, you were able to find ways over Zoom to help spread happiness. I think it's just incredible the skills both of you bring to this work. I would love for my audience around the world listening, whatever jobs they're working in currently. And certainly, most people listening are in a workplace with people with all kinds of abilities. And I would love for your input and your perspective on what do you envision for the workplaces of the future where we can be more inclusive of people with differing abilities? What advice would you have, or what hopes would you have?
Well, we're always making the argument. Hiring people with different abilities is not altruism. It's good business. Right? Businesses that have diverse workforces do better than other businesses. Businesses that have a social purpose do better than other businesses. We we hire people because we're looking for the best employees. If you
Yeah.
artificially exclude a population, you can't have the best employees. Right? We went to the Met game, the baseball game yesterday. I take look at there's some historical example there. Up until 1947, baseball was all white. The Brooklyn Dodgers integrated baseball when they signed Jackie Robinson. The next two teams to integrate were the Cleveland Indians and the then New York baseball giants. Well, think about them as businesses. Guess what? They became the best teams, the best businesses in their industry because they said, we're hiring people based on what they can do, and we're excluding the arbitrary. Well, now let's apply that to people with different abilities. Our business is better off because of whom we hire. And we're not the only ones. I could give you examples from Microsoft and IBM and Ernst & Young, when they go to hire people with different abilities, about how that boosts their business. So that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping for a world where what people with different abilities achieve are less remarkable. And what I mean by that is, if today, Lori, you leave your office or your home and you go to the local Starbucks and you see somebody there with Down syndrome, you're going to say something. You're going to tell somebody. You're going to remark on it. We want to get to the point where it's no longer remarkable, where it just happens.
Yeah. I'm a full supporter of that, and I have seen the evidence of it in my own work and in my own life. We're on the heels of April, which was Autism Awareness Month, and every April all around the world, people are highlighting how people with autism can bring differing abilities to certain workplaces. And we know here in Silicon Valley, it's a huge hub for people who have, are high on pattern recognition and a lot of different abilities that come alongside autistic people. And so this has been proven over and over again. Absolutely is true. I'm a firm believer that no one of us has enough diversity in our own brain to tackle a problem alone. So we need different types of brains thinking through issues. Temple Grandin is at the University of Colorado. She's autistic, and she also speaks widely on this, the diversity of bringing different brains around the table for business, for social impact, and certainly in your case for both. So we want to dream along with you. And we are so excited for what you're doing, not only in your own business and how successful it's been, how it's hard to imagine, John, there was a time when you didn't speak because now you've spoken to the UN and Congress and you're doing such a great job podcasting and all that. And so we're just super excited to know you. So honored to know both of you. I would love for people to know how to find you and especially where to buy your socks. So please let us know where we can go and if there's any special deals or anything we can get to.
Where can people go to get your socks?
I would go at John's Crazy Socks.com.
johnscrazysocks.com. And if you go there, you can connect with our podcast. You can connect to the dance parties. If you want to hire us to come and speak, we do speaking events. We're also on all the social media platforms. Particularly check out your TikTok, right? TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Our podcast. What's the podcast called?
The Spreading Happiness Podcast.
The Spreading Happiness Podcast. We're on all the podcast platforms. And you can connect to us through the website. If there's some way we can help people, we want to be there for them.
Oh, well, you've been just such a blessing to me today. I am just in complete awe and admiration of the two of you, father-son duo, starting a business that has just done so well to help people have socks and keep their toes warm, but also to keep their hearts happy. And you've certainly spread a lot of happiness here today for all of our listeners all around the world. We will link johnscrazysocks.com and all your socials in our show notes so people can find you and buy some socks to bring happiness to themselves and to others. And I'm really looking forward to whoever it is that you train in your business in a box coming up forward. So thanks for being on today.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome. And Everybody go to johnscrazysocks.com, check for it in the show notes, and buy some fun socks for your friends. Thanks for being on, everybody. Bye-bye. What an inspiration, these two. Just to see any father and son have that kind of relationship as an adult son, it's just really special. But to see them going into this business together that's done so well, John's Crazy Socks, they do a podcast together. It was really so enjoyable just to interview them and just be a part of just watching their interactions. And I hope that you've enjoyed this conversation as well. I'm going to put a bunch of stuff in the show notes because I'm just telling you these two are quite the sensation, and now I can see why. So there's also been a documentary that has won quite a few awards apparently by filmmaker Katie Turinsky. It's called Sock Guys, and it's about John and his business. And they've been also interviewed on lots of news sources like CBS Evening News, CNBC. They've had an article in the New York Post about them. They've been on Fox and Friends, a bunch of other media outlets. You can go to basically johnscrazysocks.com, and they have their own media page even on their website where you can see more of the places they've been on YouTube and different things. And so I really encourage you to not only check out this inspirational father-son duo, but also check out their podcast, the Spreading Happiness podcast. And then please buy some of these crazy socks to send to your friends or a pair for yourself. Because if this kind of happiness shows up in a red box with a sticker on top that has John's Crazy Socks on it, and I don't know, do they still do the Hershey's Kisses? I have no idea, but it's happiness in a box essentially. And so I think these are so fun, and I highly recommend their socks just because don't you want to support these two? I mean, seriously, they're incredible. And it was just such an honor to have them on today. And so I hope that this has been another conversation around wellness, what it means to experience wellness in your job, how to start businesses that focus on wellness, happiness being such a great part of it. Also, just business practices of increasing the diversity in your business is good for business. That includes differently abled people, and to instead of looking at what people can't do, really focus on what they can do. John is so incredible. If we focused on just Down syndrome, we would miss so much of John, wouldn't we? He's just an amazing personality and entrepreneur, and truly spreading so much happiness even today on our podcast. So I hope that if you're a differently abled person, if you have differently abled people that you know and love in your family, or if you are in a workplace with differently abled people, that somehow this conversation today has inspired you to also to see them differently for what their strengths are, and not to always focus on the one part of them that feels so different, that may have a label on it as a disability or something of that nature, because we miss all the abilities when we focus on the disabilities. And I just really loved the conversation that we had today. So I encourage you to have a takeaway from today, which I always try to do. And I feel like multiple different options today, but really, if nothing else, I hope that this whole idea of spreading happiness is a part of your life in the next week, whatever that looks like in your world, in your little place where you live and work and breathe and have people all around you, however that looks right now. I know COVID cases are rising here again where I live, and so some things are not what they were even a few weeks ago, but even through just the virtual means that you might have to spread some happiness. So that's going to be my takeaway. How can I be a person who's spreading happiness over the next week? I'd love to hear what your takeaways from today were, how you're spreading happiness wherever you are. So please join us on our Facebook page and let us know how spreading happiness is going for you. Maybe we'll share some ideas of how that looks wherever we are in the world. And thanks once again to John and Mark for spreading some happiness to us today. In the meantime, I hope that you are being well wherever you are. You're focusing on your own wellness, the wellness of others, and that as you're making a difference, that you just remember that we're all trying to make a difference together, and we're better when we do it together. Take care, everyone. Talk to you next week. Bye. What a raw and honest conversation. It was such an honor to sit there and just be able to listen and learn and begin to understand more about the journey that Paul has walked through, and how, there's just some really complicated challenges around some of the issues in the United States and around the world. I just love how he's written about this in a book in such a creative way. Please pick up Slave No More, Conquering the Master Within. Paul just does a really good job of explaining through story in a very unique way. I think you'll really enjoy the book. And it's exciting to think about somebody like Paul, who's just investing in students there in Richmond, Virginia, the way he blogs and helps out fathers to be better fathers, and the way I got to see him interact over Zoom with his little ones, and they're just precious. And to think about somebody like him who's just bringing more goodness into the world and trying to do it just one student at a time, one child at a time, one father at a time. That's the kind of work that it takes, making a difference out there. I know, because I'm watching a lot of you out there in the World of Difference podcast community as you're joining in on our Facebook group as well. And I encourage each of you, if you've not had a chance to join, to hop on over to our Facebook group. We have some fun, interesting conversations, and it's just going to increase as we try to dive into more of the nuance around some of our episodes. I'd love to have you stop by and give your 2 cents worth and help us understand how you're making a difference, how you're doing that in community, wherever you are, because it really does take joining shoulder to shoulder with others out there to make a difference in the ways that we want to see and are longing to see, and the parts of our world that really desperately need people to make a difference like you out there. So I enjoy watching what you're doing as you post things on social media, as you tell me in person, as you email me. If you want to email us at A World of Difference, we have an email address, A World of Difference, and it's DIFFERENTS, like different people, at gmail.com. Also, once again, we're on Facebook and Instagram. At Instagram, we're at A World of Difference. As we're finishing this episode, if you're thinking, I really wish I could learn more or go a little bit deeper, well, that's what our Difference Maker community is for. I would love to welcome you in to join the rest of us there. Once again, it's only $5 a month to join, the price of a latte at your local coffee shop. You can join at our Changers tier. Difference Makers is a community that really means so much to me. It's very special because each time I have a guest on the show, I record something outside of what we give to just the regular podcast audience, where we go a little bit deeper, and then I post those video episodes in this community and we can discuss them. But also at the very beginning tier, which is our Changers tier of this community, you'll get exclusive voting power and help pick podcast topics that give us, more of what we want from your perspective. You'll have access to exclusive 30 plus mini-sodes that aren't out there for the general public. And you'll get every month an exclusive monthly bonus mini-sode. At our Groundbreakers level, which is $10 a month, you can join and get all of that, but also priority access to submit questions to the podcast. And you'll get an additional 2 exclusive monthly bonus mini-sodes. And at our Trailblazers tier, which is $15 a month, the price of 3 lattes a month, you can get all of that, plus also 3 exclusive monthly bonus minisodes, and a patron shout out. So I would love for you to join us at any of those tiers. It'll help you come into this community, be in the midst of all of us, other difference makers, and we'd love to hear your perspective. I certainly would. It's a place to engage more with me and the audience around what you like, what you're resonating with, and once again, go deeper with each of our guests. So please join us in this membership community. I would love to hear your perspective and love to share this extra content with you. So show up at patreon.com/A World of Difference.